welcome to episode 12 of Who on Earth, and it's one I'm very excited to share with you guys because it's with Nikki Cohen, a fantastic friend of mine, where if you've seen people like Ruben from the previous episodes, your Echoes, we've got Wizardry coming up, the Nikki Cohen tribe, like they've all come through Nikki because the vibe she's putting out, she's bound to attract such incredible people. She's just done actually a temple event that was on Friday, and I was absolutely, it was almost like it was a spiritual experience. We had meditation, then we went into yoga with her and Natalie, then Leo comes on and does breath work. I had a little break while Isabella Nutrition gave me some Peruvian cacao, went back in for Wizardry to put on one of the most amazing dance sets to do ecstatic dance to, and then Nikki comes in and she's singing as part of it, and then Natalie's doing a poem, and then there's this sound journey at the end. It all sums her up because she's the music, the reverence for the holistic side, and all these different things Nikki is a massive advocate of. And she's also got like a little devilish side as well. There's stories about when she used to do burlesque or when she used to be a podium dancer, and she's always trying to get me to do some naughty next tasks. She's definitely an interesting character to say the least, and a fantastic musician. So before I pass you on to Nikki, she's going to do a little bit of music at the start for us. I'm just as grateful as I always am about any likes, any shares, because I want to get these people out there. It's such an important thing to connect us all to these beautiful people. So anything you can do, even if it's just sharing it to a friend, I would appreciate it very much. Now, you know I love me some Transmute, so here's a few words about them. You know how much I love me some Transmute. Well, it's a new year, so of course there's new things to tell you about. What new things, Michael? Well, about the African dance classes. Or maybe you want to be the reason for the dancers, so DJ lessons. And I can't wait for my own DJ lesson. DJ Moksha coming soon. Keep an eye out. And then we've got Jams Mute. I tell you, bring an instrument. Maybe it's even just your voice. Maybe you just want to enjoy the atmosphere, but come down to a Jams Mute and just express yourself through that sound. Now, if you might just have something as simple as a birthday or an event, something you want to host yourself, you know, you can rent the room out. It's for hire. And then they've got all the old stuff that they're doing as well. You know, the classics. We've got Mustafa doing his magical drum class with the African drumming. Or you want to take care of your fitness, we've got extreme hip hop. Or we've got the caveman group training. Trust me, they'll test you. And then we've got the ceremonial ecstatic dance through Arinyane, done by the incredible Wizardry. And that one, the magic that he weaves, my words are pointless. You have to come and experience it. We've even got the sound baths, or if you're Ruben, a sound waterfall. And you know I like using them hammocks as well. So we've got floating meditation journeys, hammock, meditation, music, take you on a story of epicness, if that's a word. We've even got cacao ceremony before it, and transmorphic breath work comes in as well, just to make sure you're right in the zone before you even get in that hammock. And then we got the old stuff as well, like workshops with Art of the Cosmos. I went to the grief one where you're allowed to release through TRE or the naturopathic nutrition. The amount of different stuff they've got going on. The only way you're actually going to know is go down to transmutestudio.co.uk and have a little look, because that's where creativity meets awareness, and they both play. Okay, when you're ready, Nikki.
Okay. Play a little bit of hang pan for you.
Do you love me some ham pan?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Thanks for that.
So set the tone, set the vibe.
So, thank you for coming on Who on Earth, Nikki. I've been wanting to get you on for a while. The coolest mum I know.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
No, it's great.
You've had some amazing guests, so I'll move closer.
It's all right.
I'm totally honoured. This is actually my very first podcast as well.
Is it?
So, yeah.
Oh, I feel honoured then.
So thank you.
You've been the one who's, by the way, for those who don't know, Echo, Ruben, the Nikki Cohen, that's all because of Nikki, as you might be able to tell. So we'll start Who on Earth where we always start. I like to start with where you've come from. So could you give the listeners a bit of an idea of where does Nikki come from?
Where was I born?
Who are you?
Oh, okay. So I was born on the Wirral, so a little town called Neston, which is, the Wirral. Not so much goes on in Neston. So we it's a beautiful little town now that I'm grown up, and I think, yeah, what a nice place. But then when you're growing up there, you want to leave, don't you, for wider horizons.
Manchester.
Yeah, exactly, Manchester. Yeah.
So what was it like for you growing up then? How did it look?
So, my mum was my parents were foster carers, so we had a few foster children in the house, and one in particular was a little boy that we had from birth up until age 10, so a long time, and he was severely autistic. So a lot of our family life was kind of based around my foster brother, so we couldn't really travel abroad or do anything like that as a family. But I was I've always been a bit of an empath, so I've always kind of been quite caring towards, especially I love children when I was just a child myself. So I kind of really enjoyed the process of having a foster brother. And
so did you sort of feel a responsibility to care for him as well?
Yeah, like once I connect, it's almost like I can be in the perspective of who I'm with. So
I can imagine that's a blessing and a bit of a curse.
Yeah. So in that way, I don't see, sometimes from my point of view, when I'm with another. So there was a lot of care between us both. But yeah, he left the family when my parents split up because with him being quite severe, he was really difficult for my mum. So they found him a home actually really far away as well. So we couldn't visit him so much. And then when I visited, because I was so close with him, he would have massive meltdowns. So the social worker said I wasn't allowed to then visit him. So yeah, I essentially lost a brother.
That's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very heartbreaking.
And how old were you at that point?
So I was probably 14 or 15, when he got sent away. I was a very sensitive child. I still am, my nervous system still needs a lot of regulation, but as a child, it was even more so. And I feel that probably because of this, I kind of had a bit of a difficult school life. I was a little bit different, and
I can relate.
Yeah. Haven't we all been bullied,
At some point.
At some point, yeah.
So what was school like then? Go on.
I was quite a sickly child, so I had quite bad eczema all over my body. So I felt a little bit like a leper at times. I felt a bit like, some kids would want to stay away from me. It became a bit of a target of the bullying, like the appearance of my skin. So my journey, a big part of my journey was to heal from that. My parents didn't really have the knowledge of how to do that naturally. So I just kind of went to doctors and had steroid creams and, the things that don't really treat the root cause.
Not the cause, but the effects every time.
Yeah, just the effects. So then I started to read from quite a young age about kind of a lot of natural methods to heal, and became quite fanatical with food quite early on, and cleansing and clearing to try and get this better. And that's kind of been a big journey. My eczema's completely healed, apart from what's visible on my hands, which is basically just a steroid damage. But so I don't really have it anymore, which is fantastic.
But it seems like it planted that seed.
Yeah.
For what was to come later. And
yeah.
In that teenage years, and you said you got bullied quite a bit, and you know what kids are like.
Yeah.
At what point did you start to sort of go away from maybe
feeling like a victim? Like, you know, because obviously kids attacking you that way,
Yeah.
is that something that's come with you through your journey for a while?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of probably the whole of my 20s has been based upon learning how to love myself and how to reprogram from those early years. I feel like it actually takes quite a long time to reprogram something like that becomes your normal. And to develop like a sense of self-esteem is like a long journey.
So was that an issue when you were younger then, self-esteem?
Yeah, definitely. Self-love, self-esteem. Like it still is, you know, we're still working with that self-love. So a lot of my spiritual path as well has helped me along the way, you know, for that self-love, for that self-esteem.
So spiritual path, does that come in our teenage years, or is this a bit later, or is it something that's always been there?
So because I had some friends, but I definitely struggled to like be in groups and relate to other people. And I was I went to college, so I wanted to be a social worker to help children. And I feel like because of the pain of what happened with my brother and how social workers dealt with that, I decided, okay, might not be for me. So I just went to Ibiza when I was 17.
Okay.
And I went there for 8 months with a couple of friends, and we basically didn't have any money, so we stayed on a campsite, made some money with whatever jobs we could do. I ended up podium dancing.
Yeah.
And working in like club entertainment where you've got to dress up as like strange characters. And like, I absolutely loved like the creative side of it. So I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be a dancer. So
how was that for you as well? Because you've gone from this sort of victimization, this rejection, and now you're up there on a podium dancing. And I imagine people reacted well for you to have that response.
Yeah, I feel like that was it. It was like the polarities. It was like I had to go into, right, look at me up here on a stage to learn some of that self-love, to have the polarity of not wanting to like see myself, to actually go into the opposite as being like my medicine. So I carried on that journey. I kind of joined a college course, and when I auditioned, I did a little bit of dance as a child, but I wasn't good enough. It was actually a bit of a silly idea to think, oh, I'm going to do this as a job. I didn't really know the industry like and how it actually is, but I was like,
so
okay.
like childlike innocence of
That was it. So I pulled out one of my podium dancing songs, and I did an audition for this teacher.
Do you know what the song was?
It was, do you know Rapture? So Rapture tastes so sweet.
I think if I heard it.
I'm honey, don't you know?
Oh, yeah. And you had that as your song?
I had that. I was 17. I'd been a little bit, you know, like, I wasn't an innocent 17-year-old anymore after 8 months in Ibiza.
I can imagine. I know you told me some stories.
So what happened as well there in Ibiza and like in my clubbing days, shall we say, is I connected with other people in a way that was so beautiful. And I was really accepted, you know. I've always loved music my whole life as well. A really deep appreciation for good music. It's not just any old music. This is like really good house music, or always loved world music as well. So from a really young age, I was kind of very interested in other cultures. So I was listening to quite a lot of deep forest and like indigenous music, even from a child. It was like, this is something in my soul. You know, this is a connection to another life, another time, where I feel this way. So music also, you know, through the times as a child that were difficult, music was the thing that really anchored me. So the dance was this connection as well to the music. And when this teacher sort of took me on this college course, the other students were a bit like, why have you took her on? I was a total untrained, like Bambi kind of thing. You know, in the first class, they were all doing jetés, which is like leaps across the floor. And I was
I've seen it, like a leg in front of the other.
And I was just like Bambi behind trying to do it. But because I'd already embarked on this path, and I felt like, I feel like it was a soul thing. It was like, you're a bit out your body. You know, like being an empath, you can float off out your body. Like, as a child, the teachers would always say, like, I was daydreaming. I kind of wasn't there. I was journeying somewhere else. So my soul, I feel, was like, you need to do something in your body. So the dance was like, you know, it was like, get in your body. You know, you need this. And I was trying and staying behind after dance class just to try to get there.
It wasn't lack of effort then?
It was, no, like my effort was really extreme, actually. I became like, it's the only way for me.
Yeah,
I need
this
to be
or nothing.
Yeah, this or nothing. I need to be a dancer. So I carried on. I did 2 years in this course. And at the end of it, I think I worked in Cyprus for a little bit, where I did shows, and I did some day duties in the kids club and stuff like that. But the quality of the show wasn't where I wanted to go. I wanted to go further.
You wanted to be on Broadway by this point.
I wanted to be on Broadway, exactly. So I was like, that was my goal. So I said, right, I want to see how good I can get, because this teacher knew I had something. You know, that's why she took on this untrained Bambi. When she took me, I was like, right, you've got something. You've got the, you know, the spark, or you just haven't got the technique. So I was like, sort of pushed my body into these stretches. I became really super flexible. I was like stretching every single day. So I wasn't flexible at all when I started. So this was a journey of flexibility as well. And then I did another 3-year course in Phil Winston's in Blackpool, which is like a vocational training where you're doing it all day long. So you're like 7-8 hours of dance.
You must have got a bit better then.
So I got better and better. And my body was just, the sensations in the body. My body was kind of, it would kill my body so much, especially starting late on in life and then trying to.
So how old were you by this point then?
I was like 21. I was 20.
That's late on in life for a dancer.
That's late on in life for dance. I was older than the other girls as well. So I pushed myself into that. But dancing really got me focused and clean. I had to give up clubbing and whatever, you know, I was doing at the weekend. I had to give up, because otherwise on a Monday morning, I was sort of jetting all over the place. So I was like, right, I have to get clean. I have to, you know, so it was.
How was that? Was it a bit frustrating?
I feel like my early teenage years were my wild years.
Oh, so you'd already sort of.
So yeah, I'd already done a decent amount, you know, because that helped me with connection with others. It was like, in a way, I was feeling this love vibration. I was feeling this beautiful connection. I met some, you know, really great people and felt like I could be part of a group in a way that I'd not felt before.
Seems like it did what it needed to do for you then.
It did, yeah. And yeah, the connection to the music, connection to the bliss state, you know, that exist for us on the earth. And but yeah, really important to like, I really valued that space of like getting really clean and pure. You know, I was already on this path of my diet, so knowing that I have to eat in a certain way for my health, for my eczema, and I loved like the feeling of that training and like, you know.
So it wasn't like this burden that I have to eat a certain way, I have to put all this effort in. It was actually like this challenge that gave you purpose, gave you something to strive for. Yeah,
and then helped me to feel alive, and it was the expression of my body with the music and how I could become the music. This thing the music that I love so much, it was like I can become that as I move. The training course was really harsh because the method of training is to almost humiliate you into not feeling good enough until you try so hard so that you are good enough. But for me, personally, because this not good enough was already kind of in my psyche, training in that environment was a little bit, it kind of fed into that a little bit. So, you know, a lot of the classes, like the musical theatre classes, we'd be in groups of like 8, would be up on the stage performing something, and the rest of the college would be, or the rest of the year would be watching you, and there'd be so much like whispering and pointing and, you know, all of that going on.
Very old school way of doing that.
It really was. And then the teacher would just rip you apart of like what you did wrong in all of the, you know, because there was no point in saying there might be 1 or 2 kind of example students where they'd say, right, that was fantastic. But I was never going to be that, you know, because I was basically fighting to keep my level up. And in the end, I found, because of that, I left a little bit early and I went to London.
Okay.
I'm trained in like Pineapple Studios for a while, which is a dance studio there, because I found, okay, I can train in my own way.
So was that a bit different there then, was it?
Yeah, well, it was because you pay as you go for the classes. Obviously, the teachers want you in their classes, so they're not going to like...
Bit nicer to you there.
They're a bit nicer to you, so you come back.
Not just ripping you.
Yeah. So I trained there, and I was in the environment as well to kind of get the job. So I did get some jobs out of it. I was in a burlesque show for a while, and kind of.
This is what I mean. Like, I knew I had to get you on. You just whip out these stories, and I'm like, you are. So what was the burlesque show like?
It was just like a touring show, like around London, and it was really nice. Like there's an energy within me that can overtake me when I perform. So I think I love that, like being a little, like fairly shy in real life, and then when I get on stage, there's a fire. Yeah. And it is just really amazing to to find a way to access that fire as well, and like almost be someone else.
Because you definitely when I've seen you performing, there's no nerves. You own it, and everyone's like, wow, where's that come? Because obviously you are like this little quirky,
a little bit anxious, bit nervous in everyday life,
little mousy-ish, and then you're like, bumf, this is actually me. Or actually, to be honest, I think both of them are you, but this one seems to be you in a more flow state.
The flow state, that's exactly it. Yeah, so I could access it there, but what I found with dance jobs is that there's not that many very raw, artistic and emotional pieces that you can perform that you can make money from. Okay. So you end up kind of compromising. Like I was in a pantomime for a while, and you end up compromising the art that you want to express for what sells. So you're just doing it repeatedly. So even though in class you can express that emotion, it's sort of a little bit more difficult, like when you get a job. So it kind of, and then there was a lot of bitchiness, because what I learned from the industry is that there are hundreds of dancers for one job, and the competition. So this dream of me being on Broadway, I got to the Broadway auditions and just like saw the thousands of people there. You could go to an audition for there's like 500 people there for one job, and you've got a number on your chest and you're fighting. And I know I got to a good level because I would get to the end of some of these auditions, but I wouldn't quite get there. And for a lot of the really good jobs, so it's like I never really was like, wow, this is the job I've been waiting for. It never really like happened in that way. And the last contract I did was in Blackpool, and it was very competitive. There was like a role for one of the new girls, and the other girl spent quite a long time with tactics trying to speak about all the things I'd done wrong to the choreographer so that she'd be the one to get the job. And in the end I was like, this is not my energy. So I'm not going to carry on in this industry at all. It's I'm not here for that. I feel I was reading philosophy books then, and I feel like I want to be not just my body, not just how I move. I want to like be all encompassing of the mind and the soul, holistic and and I like kindness and care for each other. I feel like this must be a new way of relating.
I mean, knowing you how I do now, like that environment just doesn't sound very you.
Yeah,
doesn't sound conducive to how you like to live your life.
Yeah, it was a bit like it was an initiation process I had to go through to get stronger.
It served a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell that when you must have gone from this nervous, everyone's bullying me, then I've gone to Ibiza, I'm getting a bit of attention. That's my dream now. I'm going to do this. Oh, actually, it's a bit, so where did we go from there?
Yeah, so my best friend growing up,
I'll just move that back a bit.
She lived across the road from me, and when times were really hard or I had no friends, she was like one of my only friends. So we used to
What's her name?
She was called Claire Reed. And
shout out to Claire.
Yeah, she's an artist and a tattoo artist. She's cool. Like totally cool now. She had the same problems as me as well at school, but she's so cool. And there was a time actually when I started to hang out with like the local group. So I sort of didn't hang out with them anymore because I thought that local group were like really cool. And actually it was Claire that was the coolest now. Like she's got her own tattoo studio in Byron Bay, and she's a brilliant artist and painter. So I decided to stay with her for a little bit. And
I probably saw her tattoo shop, you know, because I've been to Byron Bay when I lived in
Have
Australia.
you? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we went walking around.
It's called Temple Tattoo.
Temple Tattoo. Check it out for those Australians.
Yeah.
We do have foreigners listening as well. Don't worry.
Oh,
So
good.
And I've got an Australian crew from when I lived there.
So her art is like a lot of the visions that she channels. So she kind of paints like from those visions.
Nice.
And her tattoos are the same. She's amazing at like painting deities and goddesses and like, yeah.
I can see why you like her then.
Yeah. Well, it was a childhood connection, you know. So I decided to go and stay with her. And when I arrived, her energy was like, she was quite liberated in herself and her own autonomy. And I felt into that energy. She was quite a free spirit. She was living in Byron Bay, like with her boyfriend and in this like jungly house.
In between Chris Hemsworth and Margaret Robbie, she was just chilling.
She was just, and then she had all the paintings and her boyfriend was a musician, and I just felt a little bit inadequate when I arrived. I was like, I'd just been like sort of beaten down by the dance industry. I was like, didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do.
Doing leaps to just try and be impressed.
Yeah, I was trying to be a bit chill and a bit cool, but I was actually like pretty anxious.
Yeah.
So she kind of read into my state, but with love. But she was and then when I was there, I started doing quite a lot of yoga classes because she was working a lot in the day. And there was a school called the Byron Yoga Center. And when I was doing their classes, I was like, I want to be a yoga teacher. I was like, I really, really want to do it. And the only time I'd done much yoga before was in Pineapple Studios.
So you'd done a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just to help with flexibility. And
so there was nothing about connecting the breath with the postures and aligning with the sacred geometry.
No.
It was just, I need to be more flexible.
Yeah, but I enjoyed, they were my rest and release in Pineapple Studios. They were like, oh, this is my time of like real beauty and release. It felt in the classes. But when I went to Australia, there's a culture there. There's a full like spiritual culture that I was like, wow.
Well, it's no shock that when I went to Australia, that's when I started getting interested.
Yeah, amazing. In Byron Bay.
Well, it was Gold Coast, so it wasn't far. I think Byron Bay is part of the Gold Coast, actually. It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. Byron Bay's just got such a unique energy. And it was a while ago, you know, this was like, 15 years ago? So I think everyone says, oh, it's changed, or it was changed back then. But to me, it was great. And there's a lot of healers walking around, a lot of artists, you know, yoga teachers. So I was like really just enjoying but I also didn't quite feel in it, you know, while I was wandering around alone, jet lagged, kind of looking at these really cool, like spiritual people, thinking, wow, if I could, you know, I was like looking in at the window of these cool cafes, like wondering what it'd be like to be in it. Yeah. You know, obviously I met some friends in the end, but there was definitely that feeling for me of this is something I'm not quite there with, but I would love to be. So I joined, I went to the class of the owner of the Byron Yoga Center, and he said he's got this course coming up, but it's full. So I kept going to his classes and I said, please, can you get me on this course?
You don't like persistence. Do you?
Yeah. So I just said, I've got a feeling this is meant to be for me. Like in the end, he let me on his course, and the course was, he just opened like these dorm rooms like in the middle of like a swampy area in Byron Bay. Nice. So it was kind of, it wasn't quite there when we I think it's absolutely beautiful now. They've got a massive centre on the beach, so
it was at the beginning.
Shout out to Byron Yoga Centre.
Shout out.
It's amazing. And
I mean, I think we can both relate to being at the start of something.
Yeah.
Like with this podcast, like I was telling you, I've not one, in my opinion, had a perfect one yet.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
Just at the start.
Yeah.
So there was like issues with, there's a few issues with mosquitoes and like the toilets and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? There was a little bit of complaining on the course. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to really take this on, because when I settled into the teachings, it felt like this is something I was always supposed to, I want to say learn, but I'll say remember. You know, I need to remember this knowledge because this is something within me. And I felt like at school, like I really struggled if I wasn't interested in a subject to listen and to like take it on. So having a subject that I was like, oh, this feels, it's like the dance was like something in my body, and then the philosophy books was something in the book. This was a way to merge them all together in a way that I never understood that yoga even was that until I did my yoga teacher training.
I used to just think it was stretching.
Just stretching, yeah, just looks good, you know. And then also coming from a dance world where it's all about how you look, I would see people do yoga and compare it to the level of what a dancer looks like and think, oh, it's not really good enough, you know, not really understanding that it's the internal sensation that you cultivate that actually matters. And in turn, the whole philosophy of the internal sensations of your reality are what really matters. So taking you away from like how you look, what you appear to be to others are the things that don't matter as much as the sensations and how you're living your life internally. And that's where yoga and dance completely differ.
Because I saw a thing on some American show where it was competitive yoga.
Yeah.
I'm like, you couldn't be further from why you would be doing such a practice.
Yeah.
It's about, like you said, it's going internal, it's sensation, it's aligning.
Yeah.
So how long did that go on for then?
The course? Yeah, that was, it was a 2-month course, 6 days a week from 5 a.m. until 6 p.m. at night. It was really intensive. So it was just fantastic. And we were chanting every morning with the beads. And I was doing quite a bit of crying as well. And there was some students that were a bit like, oh, what's wrong? And I was like, there's just so much coming up now and like releasing, you know.
No, I mean, that's understandable. I mean,
yeah.
People seem to vilify crying.
Yeah.
As if like that's not a natural human bodily function to release, like you said.
Yeah.
How did that feel then when you were unburdening yourself?
I absolutely like connected with the feeling of like purging, what that's like to release and purge, and the feeling afterwards and the clarity and the, you know. And when my friend Claire came to see me while I was on the teacher training, she was kind of noticing how much my anxiety had softened and how kind of what it was doing for me. It was almost magical to go through that process.
I can see your face is just lighting up, reliving it.
Yeah. And like when I first went to Byron Bay, I couldn't look people in the eye. So I remember like going in and just like, I just looked away if I saw people. So that was a process of even being, you know, being okay with me being here and you seeing me. That was like, that's almost been a process as well. And like that spiritual journey of like sinking into my body and like coming into that self-love has helped me with like so many things, you know.
So where did we go from there then?
So then, yeah, I carried on, got my qualification. I absolutely loved it. And I found some of it quite easy from coming from a dance background, you know, to kind of put the sequences together and to remember the poses. We learned all the Sanskrit of the poses as well. And we had, they had like, what was really good about this school is they had where you had to teach to practice the public, and they raised money for charity for the classes that you teach. So I remember the very first time I taught on the course at the end, I remember just crying and saying, it was just so terrible to the, I'm just not doing good to the tutor. And she was like, that was so good. You did so well, but I'm just so programmed like in that way that's just not good enough.
What was your mind like when she was giving you positive feedback?
I was just really shocked. Like, I just didn't feel like, it's like my own inner standards were like so high that it had to be so perfect.
It's got like a perfectionist part.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, yeah.
It had to be so perfect. So part of the journey was like being witnessed in that way, and to know that, you know, it's not quite as bad as what you think it is.
It never is. You know, we make our mind and our egos like end of the world, and everyone else is like, what?
Well, so what? You got the wrong leg when you talk.
Because I'm like, oh my god, it focuses in and out, in and out. The sound wasn't right. This wasn't right. And I was like, I love that. I'm like,
yeah.
But it was shocking.
It's like the journey of becoming a bit more chill, isn't it? It's like it's really tough.
Bit more.
The really cool people are like just really chilled out. This perfectionist.
Got that lunar moon energy. Just whatever.
I want to get there.
Getting there.
So when I came back to Manchester, there wasn't like that. There wasn't any yoga studios really. There was Yoga Manchester, still going now. They taught around different kind of schools for spaces. So there wasn't that much. So my partner had an office building. So I asked if I could teach yoga in the empty office spaces. So I kind of went into the empty office spaces and started a little class there, so that when he rented that office out, I had to move to another empty office. And it was right in the centre of town, so it had a good location. Yeah. So I was basically squatting. It's like I had squatters' rights in the office space to teach my classes, and I made some leaflets at the time. I wasn't on Instagram. I sort of should have started an Instagram account back then, but because of my dance background and the thing being how you look, I was kind of quite against that.
I remember you telling me, it was a bit of a process for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's something damaging when you focus so much on image, and that represents the energy of how you appear outside to society, and that kind of alters what you put out there. And I'd spent a while in the dance industry, like on that process. So I wanted the opposite with yoga, because that felt more me and it felt better in my body. So there was that kind of, I should have took a load of pictures and videos when I was at that phase in my life, before I had children, when I was in my early 20s. And then that would have been really great for my Instagram that I'm trying to build up now.
I think you look great. Like, there was a picture that someone did with you in the white peacock, and it was like, oh my, that looks like just something from a film.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I've not posted that picture. I'm a little bit scared.
That is now going to be your cover for this episode.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a bit much. So I went around town handing out leaflets of this yoga class that I was going to start, because that was the way to promote, was leaflets, and everyone just gave me a $5 in cash. And it started off, one person came to the class, then 2. Then again, no one came. Then maybe 3. And a part of the process was not letting your ego get in the way, but just trusting the universe and wait, and then being with the people that are there in front of you is your purpose.
Even if it's just one.
Even if it's just one. And not seeing them as pound signs coming in over their heads. You know, it's not that.
Not just pound signs as well, like ego boosts.
Ego boosts.
Oh, I've got 20
signs.
people, I must be great. Oh, no one came, I must be shit.
Yeah. It's just like having a bit more of that, like sharing something. You know, there was something that softened out my anxiety and made my internal world completely alter, that I want to share. Because what people's homeostasis, what people's balance is, they don't realize that they're existing within that state until that state gets softened out, and they go, wow, I can now exist within this state. So that's something that, like, I wanted to share.
What is it? Where does that that desire to share it with people come from? Is it maybe that empathy you spoke of at the start?
Yeah, it's more about what it can do for people. You know, what it's done for me, wanting that for others as well.
So the class, does it start picking up at some point?
Yeah, it started picking up. And then it got to a point where I had like 20 odd students, and I couldn't fit everyone in the room sometimes. Right. And that was when I was in the city centre, because there wasn't many other studios around.
Yeah, there's not all that competition.
It wasn't loads of competition.
It wasn't that you were good.
Yeah, but that was really great about it. It was actually like a bit of a radical thing to do, to like teach yoga and to learn. It wasn't the trend like it is now. It's like, it was a trend in Byron Bay. Yeah. So if I would have stayed in Byron Bay, it's like every other person was a yoga teacher, so I probably couldn't have made a living there. But coming back to Manchester, it wasn't bang on trend like it is now.
I've been to your yoga class, and just personally, I was shocked with how, it sounds bad, I was shocked with how good it was, just because until you actually do something, you don't know how good someone's going to be. And you were brilliant, especially because you linked up with David Morris as well, which is great. And that was just, I was because you gave it me for a birthday present, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was lovely to have you there.
Sorry, I've hijacked it. Go on, tell us.
And then the class built up, but then because of this moving around empty offices, and obviously not being able to pay the rent that was needed for city centre premises, I moved to inside Victoria Warehouse. So I always called it Manchester Yoga Central. I didn't understand much about like search engine optimization, so I thought I have to call it that so that it can be found.
Okay.
I could change the name now, but I'm just kind of keeping with that.
Yeah, it's what it's called now.
Yeah, it's what it's called. So moved to Victoria Warehouse, where in more of a permanent space, and I was working to design the lounge in Victoria Warehouse and helping within the premises.
It looks brilliant though.
Yeah, thank you.
When I had my photo shoot there with Luke Donnelly, and I was like, whoa, what is this place? Is it Cali? Is that the right goddess?
You know what? I've been told by a few different people some different things about what that goddess is. So that statue is from Cambodia.
Okay.
So I did a little bit. Yeah. So within the duration of teaching, I decided to kind of learn more as well. So I did quite a lot of training in my 20s, which I'm really glad I did, because now I've got 2 children. It's really difficult to immerse yourself a little bit deeper. So I went to Kerala in India and did an Ashtanga teacher training in like an Ayurvedic center. So I learned a bit about Ayurveda and Ashtanga yoga. So I went through that process.
And just for people who don't know what they are.
Okay, so Ashtanga yoga is a process of the same sequence that you do repetitively. You can't move on to the second series until you've completely mastered the first series, which is really difficult, the first series. So it's kind of, there's a lot of lotus, there's like balances, headstands, there's a lot in it, in this sort of series. And it's very energetic. I think it was originally like formed for males. So it's kind of, it's kind of a very energetic sequence. And it's great. It's a proper vinyasa. It's kind of where vinyasa derived from, the Ashtanga. So it's kind of great to delve into it, and doing a month where you do it really intensively is really good as well. So that kind of gave me that, from the Hatha that was a bit more nurturing with props and things, to the Ashtanga, to learn a bit about that. And then I fell in love with Kerala. So Kerala is like the most southern tip of India.
Okay.
And it's the home of Ayurveda, which is the natural healing system of India, which is quite ancient.
Is that where it's like Pitta and what are the other two?
It's the Pitta, Vata, Kapha.
That's it.
Yeah, so the Vata is the higher one, the more airy one. So I'm a total Vata. So
I think Izzy keeps saying I'm Pitta.
Yeah, Pitta is the more fire. So Pitta would be like, if a Pitta's out of balance, you get a bit angry, a bit heated, but quite passionate.
I can't comment.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with anger.
I go from being meditation with Michael to volcano.
Yeah.
There is no in between.
And so when the Vata gets out of balance, they can get a little bit ungrounded and a bit anxious, which is me. And then the Kapha is the one that's kind of closest to the earth. They're a bit more steady, a little bit bigger in form. And when they go out of balance, they can get really lazy. I don't know why I've learned about out of balance instead of the positives. I'm telling you about the out of balance of the doshas. Kerala is like the home of it. So like everywhere you go in Kerala, they have an Ayurvedic center of all different qualities. You can go to like a beautiful resort, and an Ayurvedic doctor will say your dosha, and they'll give you a full program to balance out that dosha. And it's even like, if you're a Vata and you have to eat more kapha foods to kind of ground you, so that's kind of more like root vegetables and things that are like roots. And so these centers are designed to balance out so that those 3 doshas can become more in alignment with each other. So if you've got all 3 doshas are in perfect alignment, then you're in perfect harmony. So part of my path has been to ground, part of my healing. This kind of nervous, anxious energy, not quite being present, this is all like a Vata, like imbalance.
Okay.
So for me to balance this Vata out, it was, connection to nature, connection to my feet, walking slowly on the earth.
Grounding works miracles. I didn't realise how powerful it was. Yeah. And there is science to back it up as well. It's almost like the earth says, let me take some of that from you.
Yeah, the earth can support us. We don't need to escape from the earth. We've been incarnated here, haven't we? So we may as well be.
There must
here.
be a reason, right? At the very least.
Yeah, there's got to be. Maybe like our path here is to learn how to be here, how to really be in this earth. I always feel like, the soaring free spirit is kind of trapped by the prison of the body. There's that restlessness about being spirit in form for me.
I couldn't relate. It's like almost like this trapped feeling of I know I'm more, but I can't break out. Yeah. But I think that's kind of the point. Yeah. You came to be the Nikki character. Yeah. Go be the Nikki. Nikki is in a body.
You came to be dense.
Exactly. If you're playing in Mario, Mario's got certain limitations, which makes the character of Mario. Go be Mario for a bit. Yeah. Just don't trick yourself into thinking you're Mario. Yeah. So you're off in India. You're learning all the Ayurveda. Yeah. How's that change you then?
Just learning deeply about myself. I also met a really great Reiki teacher while I was in India. So I went on the path of Reiki as well while I was there.
And again, for the listeners, what's Reiki?
So Reiki is a universal energy that you learn to channel through you to then channel into the person. And they're like felt like re-remembering for me to be able to work with that.
So it was that same thing as earlier where it felt like, oh no, I already knew this.
Yeah, it was like being an empath from a child. So being able to sit with another person, but feel what they're feeling inside my body, you know, from a young age. So that really can help when it comes to going into like healing work, because then you can sit with that body and you can already feel it in your body, where it is that you need to work. And I think that's really difficult and confusing as a child, because you can become burdened from the energy of everyone. You don't understand what it is, if it's yours. You know, my a really close person to me growing up was my nan, so my dad's mum, and she was a psychic. She used to read tea leaves, and she said to me as a child, she's like, you know, you have my gifts, or you know, you have it. It's, you know, it's within you. And I remember when I was a child having a lot of visitations from like spirits, and I had like standing over my bed and I could see them, and it was terrifying. It was awful. So when my nan kind of said this to me, I was just so terrified. So I said, right, stop, go. Blocked it, pushed it away. I was like, it's too much for me. And part of this spiritual journey is like learning how to develop a strength to be able to feel and see and hear what is not in this realm without it overwhelming my system. So there's a sense, you know, being put here with a sensitivity can be really painful to exist here in this realm and feel this sensitive.
Because if you're more sensitive to the pleasurable stuff, you're also more sensitive to the more painful stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I can't speak for everyone else because I'm only in...
Well, it's who on earth is Nikki?
Yeah, it's only in my own experience of like what it's like to live in this. But it's almost like someone's turned up the volume of sensation in my body really high. And I have to learn what it's like to live in this body where the sensation levels are very, very high. And then be able to stay calm with those high sensation levels and be able to hold both the pleasurable and the unpleasurable as one. Which is like, I guess, one of the philosophies, and going down a more shamanic route recently, it's, you know, not bypassing the unpleasurable sensations, but learning how to like have that shamanic power to be able to hold both, so that I can train in, you know, when you're really sensitive, you can either go one way or the other. So you can either go, I'm really sensitive, so I'm going to shut out the world because this feels too much. I'm going to hide away. You know, I'm not going to show who I am because I'm so sensitive to other people's opinions. So I'm going to, you know, you're going to go down like the other way with that. So it's like been put here to go, you can feel all this so much, but your only way is to feel more until you've mastered it. You know,
I can relate so much. It's been one of the things that's held me back. So it's just too much. And then you realize you can hold this, hold it with the infinite. Should not be scared of the finite. Yeah. But it's not knowing that. That's the problem, isn't it? And you can even know it in your mind. Yeah. But you have to experience it as well, which sounds like that's part of being your journey. You've gone off and you've not just talked about it, like you said, and you've not just read about it. You've actually gone and experienced it, lived it. Somatic
experience, isn't it? Experiencing it, because everything is just a sensation. Everything from our external world creates a sensation within us. So we have to train ourselves in those sensations. It's not just about talking the problems or talking the issues, you know. All of those issues create a sensation as well. Obviously, the mind is valuable and needs to be included.
Of course.
Yeah, and even the very basic lesson of impermanence, you know, that Buddhist lesson of it's all impermanent. Yeah, it rises and passes. I know we've both done Vipassana as well. So.
Yeah. Was it long after the India trip that you did Vipassana?
Yeah, I went back to India probably like about 4 or 5 times. Got connected with an orphanage there as well, and cool. Lived in the orphanage for a little bit, and that was really beautiful because I got myself to a point of, you know, after doing the month of yoga and Ayurveda, that I was kind of strong enough for. I understood what being of service meant. It was like when I was in the orphanage, I had so much energy, even more so now that when I look after them, just 2 kids, I have like a lot less energy that when I was kind of had this service about me. And I feel that what being in service means is like when you have purified yourself, when you're really like your self-care is like really high, then you have that overspilling of energy that you can share. So that's why like self-care is the fundamental path.
Can't give anything if you've got nothing to give.
No, that's it. So it's a fundamental path to be able to help. Essentially, you have to help yourself first.
Are you tired of feeling run down? Maybe you're struggling with some sort of health condition, or it could be as simple as you're not reaching your fullest potential. Well, I found a solution. Isabella Nutrition's here to transform your life, show you the incredible healing power of nature. Let me just introduce to you Isabella Bradford Johnson, a skilled naturopathic nutritionist with a passion for showing you how to achieve optimum health, well-being, with tailor-made nutrition and lifestyle plans. She'll show you how to fill your life with vitality, renewed energy. Now, Isabella firmly believes that your body holds the key to your healing. She just wants to show you how to unlock it. Through the power of lifestyle and diet changes, Isabella will show you how to heal from within. Be that best version of yourself. Now, whether you're looking to improve your overall health or target a specific area, maybe it's gut or hormonal issues where she specialises, Isabella will have expert guidance and support to show you how to have a future filled with joy. Now, it's not about quick fixes, short-term solutions. No, it's about long-term transformation, sustainable results. So stop waiting to take care of your health. Go down to www.isabellabradfordjohnsonnutritionist.uk. Book a consultation with Isabella today. Embark on a journey filled with health, vitality, lasting well-being. Isabella Nutrition, empowering you to live your healthiest life.
Yeah, because I see people that are like absolutely caring for this person, doing this for that, and doing this for that, and doing this for that, not realising that actually they're doing the people they're trying to help a disservice by not being the best version of themselves that they can be, by taking care of themselves first.
Yeah. And no one wants to feel like a burden. If somebody's helping you from an empty cup and you feel like, oh no, you know, when I spilt that out, or I was emotional with you and it was a burden on you, it's kind of a really like, oh, it's a horrible feeling, isn't it? Whereas if someone has more of an abundance of energy and they can take that, then...
It's like when you're with Ruben.
Yeah, he's got an abundance.
It just spilled. My girlfriend and we watched this part 2 yesterday that I finished doing the subtitles for, and it's just spilling out of him.
Yeah.
With ease.
Because of his self-practice. Yeah, he's like cultivated that over many, many years, hasn't he? And he's gone to dark places as well.
Oh, watch episode 3 and 4, you'll find out. But it's who on earth are you? So you've gone into this.
Yeah.
Did you say you went into Vipassana shortly afterwards, or are we missed a step?
I just kept I was almost fanatical about training and studying. It was like, wow, I finally learned found something that I actually really want to learn. And
no half meshes for you, is there?
Yeah. and sometimes I would sign myself up for things that I didn't really understand. It was like the universe was going, okay, it's like go down this path or this path. And the Vipassana, I think, was one of those things.
Okay.
I'd heard a few people, oh yeah, that was it on the yoga teacher train. Actually, I'd heard that some of the teachers went to do the Vipassana in India. They actually went to the centre.
Oh, Goenka.
They actually went to Goenka's centre.
So good.
In India?
No.
So no, they went
to Hereford.
They went to the original one. And they came back talking about it. And this was when I was quite new on the spiritual path. And I was absolutely shocked. I was like, wow, you sit there upright for like 10 hours a day. And they were talking about rats coming in and like chewing their toilet paper and that you weren't allowed to say anything because it was silent retreat. I thought, this is so extreme. But I was like absolutely in awe of them. I could see that there was a sense of liberation from them. They weren't all like, I was still really conscious then. I was like conscious about what I was doing, how I appeared, and they seemed to like, they weren't.
You said to me, didn't you? You said like, come back to me when you've done the Vipassana.
Yeah. And
you could straight away, you went, I can just see the difference.
Yeah.
Because it is that powerful, isn't it? 100 hours of just silence and just being with yourself. Really learning about the aversion and the craving and the doubt and the restlessness and how all that's affecting you.
Yeah.
So how did you experience? How was your experience when it came
I
to
went
your
on.
turn?
I went on 2 Vipassanas, and both the time I went in between Christmas and New Year, which is such a good time to go because not much happens then, does it?
No, it's pretty boring. Nothing really going on kind of time of the year. Yeah.
Oh, or did I go before Christmas? Oh, I can't remember.
It was close enough.
Yeah, it was very cold.
Where did you go?
I went to Hereford both times.
So you
like
went to. That's so good.
Yeah. I did really love it. I was really shocked at the amount of pain though I felt in my body.
Right.
I was so shocked at that because I was thinking,
You're a yoga teacher.
Yeah, I was thinking I've done a lot of yoga. I should be okay to sit, but the intense pain from my hips, and I feel that that it is a part of the purification process. I mean, we could be bypassing here a little bit of, oh, you're not supposed to sit for that long, but there is definitely a massive purification that's happening.
Because Ursula had the same problem.
Right, okay.
She's a yoga teacher, isn't she? She's
Yeah.
thinking, that's not going to be the issue. It's
the
the wandering mind and the
Yeah.
emotions. I'm in so much pain.
Yeah, the no talking as well wasn't a problem.
I loved it. And you've met
Yeah.
me. I like a chat. You like a chat. We're not struggling. But the silence, by the end, I was like, I don't really want to talk.
The not having to expend any energy that was fantastic. I absolutely loved like the philosophy at the end, and I got to a state where the pain was really intense in my body, and I got to the place when it got more intense where you weren't allowed to move. That's when the practice kind of ascended for me, where I got to a state where there was pain in my body, but I'd kind of managed to leave my body.
Okay, so you weren't going into that pain, you were sort of detaching from it.
I was in it, but I was able to detach from it. So it was like...
So it's a duality then?
There was a duality, but the feeling of leaving was so beautiful. Like, I don't want to talk about it too much because then, if the listeners want to do a Vipassana, the worst thing you can do is try to want to get somewhere.
I think you should share your experience, but that little disclaimer of your experience is not going to be the same. I can guarantee you, I spoke to everybody else on that. People and apart from maybe, it was painful, I had tickles I didn't like.
Yeah.
The internal stuff's yours, it's unique. So go on, tell us about your experience.
I guess for me, like, being somebody that struggles to like sink into my body, and like as a child I was like really twitchy, really restless, sitting still has been like one of the most difficult things for me. Like, flow yoga is fine, yin yoga and sitting still and meditation has been really hard, but also knowing that you don't need to scratch that itch, you don't need to move, you don't need
it's not going to kill you.
Understanding what the sensations are. And I'm wondering, when some of us are quite vata and quite airy, that there's just that resistance to actually really feeling here. So we maybe necessary to go through that process of like actually sitting in the body. So for me, it was a lot about that process of what am I actually escaping from?
I think that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
What is the movement? What is the thought patterns? What is the action actually stopping me from feeling? You said it's all about sensation earlier.
Yeah. It's all about sensations and learning how to, training ourselves of how to feel those sensations.
And I think one important thing that they kept saying was with equanimity, objectivity, like not with aversion, not feeling it to be rid of it, but just feeling it because it is. Yeah.
And that was kind of, it's very different from Reiki, where you're transmuting energy, you're changing it. Learning how to be with it without wanting to change it was also quite a necessary part of the path.
Okay.
And then when I came back and gave Reiki, because I was given Reiki healings at the time, so when I came back to do that, it was more powerful because it's like as if when you surrender, then spirit can work through you a lot stronger than...
It's like, get out the way.
Yeah, get out the way. And when you're trying to do something from your ego or the you, then it can block it a little bit.
Rather than just being a pure vessel for it to channel through.
Yeah, and that comes with that full acceptance. And even the acceptance when you don't feel it channeling through for a particular person at a particular time.
Well, do you think that might have helped in the Vipassana where there are blind spots? Because there are blind spots in when you're doing the Vipassana. It's not all dense. Sometimes it's just, I can't feel anything there.
Yeah.
I found that the most frustrating.
Yeah.
Intense pain, but it was summit.
Yeah.
Where when it was nothing, that to me...
Numbness is...
And it was almost like, am I doing something wrong? Am I broken?
Yeah, numbness is a sensation. I do teach that in meditation sometimes, because numbness is the sign of like being disembodied, isn't it? So that's really important as well.
I think it's a good point to make.
Yeah. So yeah.
So you've done the one Vipassana. Anything happened between that and the next one?
I can't even think whether it was a year or 2 years. I was on a path in my 20s of being really strict with my morning practice.
Okay.
So I practiced for like 2 hours every day, kind of for a while. I had my meditation, my yoga, my Reiki practice. So I also, looking back now, I think that the issue with what I'd done and where I'd gone was I started to bypass some of my human emotions. So what was going on at the time in my life, I was learning to just be with it as it is, whereas there's a possibility that some situations or environments weren't what was best for me. But I was really great at just being with what is. So, I mean, I kind of left quite a bit and did a few courses and kind of kept dipping in and out of like my home at the time. So, but I feel now that I've had 2 children and I'm learning how to be with their emotions and their outbursts and their raw, learning to be with that as it is, but also learning to validate those emotions has retrained some of my thinking of my spiritual past to really accept my emotions.
Well, they say children are the best gurus.
Yeah, it's just a really different path. It's a very different path now, different spiritual path to even, I'm not practicing as long.
Well, you've got a few priorities. I mean, how long was it from the Vipassanas when you did end up having children?
Yeah, it's difficult it's difficult, this whole timeline. I think there was probably like a 10-year period of time where I was teaching and training before I had children, or maybe a little bit less. I also did a shiatsu course, so didn't really understand about it before I signed up, but wanted
Shiatsu's massage, that you did it a little bit on me, didn't you?
Yeah, it's learning about the meridian system. I wanted a deeper knowledge about like the energy system in the body. So that's like a 3-year course. So I had my first daughter, Rosalia, when I was still at the Shiatsu college. So then what I did was dipped in and out, didn't manage to finish it. It took like 10 years to finish a course. But I kept
But
doing.
you carried on, though.
I carried on. I kept doing little bits of heat treatments on people. And I think because it took me so long that the knowledge is, it was nice to dip in and out and really like keep revisiting that knowledge over time, because the Chinese medicine is such a deep system. It's when you first are exposed to it, you're like, I really don't understand this. This is like.
Yeah, I was almost scoffing at it when I was younger. Like, it's not Western. Come on,
it's
still
ancient,
doing that.
though.
But then you start to realize, wow, it's the wisdom in it.
Yeah, how it's all linked. I mean, what I find really fascinating is it kind of mirrors, like in the West, we don't see things in as much of a multi-layered sense, and obviously we only treat a symptom when it's really out of balance. So in Chinese medicine, they're sensing the more subtle imbalances so that can be treated before it ends up as a big symptom and a really big dis-ease or disharmony. So I also really love how, you have the meridian, which is an energy pathway that runs from the organ to the extremities. So it's how the expression of that organ in the whole body, so not just in the location of the organ. And say, for example, you take an organ, you don't just look at it, the physical function, but you look at the emotional, the spiritual, and you look at the different layers and expressions of that organ in the body. So when you have an imbalance in that particular organ, and the shiatsu is really amazing. Also, shout out to the Shiatsu College as well in Manchester.
Yeah, man.
It's amazing because, I mean, it's a 3-year course because it takes a while to gain that sensitivity of your hands to be able to listen to the person and the energy system. And the whole diagnosis is done on the belly, so they call it the hara, where you feel end points of these meridians and you can feel what is in excess and what is depleted. So you feel like basically the yin and the yang, or they call it the kyo and jitsu.
Okay.
So you work on the one that is depleted. So you sense two meridians that seem like they've got a relation to each other when you read the hara, and you have one that's in excess. And to bring the excess down, you work on the one that's depleted, and you kind of tonify and give it energy with your hands. And you like work on to bring that into balance.
Is that why you're doing the shakes and things?
Yeah, so you might shake it, or
because I was expecting when you said shiatsu massage, I was like, yeah, I gotta get a massage, and you were doing it. And I was like, I didn't want you to stop.
Yeah,
I had to go carry on doing the trees with David, and I'm like, oh, that was really nice.
I know, because
something
sometimes
about it was just,
you see those shiatsu massage chairs in Boots and things, and you think, oh, it's just like going to be a massage, you know. But it's quite a lot. It's a lot more than that, which I'm glad, because there's more knowledge to it. It did take me a while though to absorb this knowledge, you know.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. I do blame that on having. When I was pregnant with Rosalie, I was really sick as well throughout the pregnancy, so I couldn't function. But apart from teaching a little bit of yoga, I couldn't function.
I think
very
you had
well.
legitimate
Yeah.
reasons. So how was it then? You're having Rosie now then.
Yeah.
That's when that's a big change to have in your life.
Yeah. So that was all the path before having children, and then I found like pregnancy really quite difficult.
Okay.
I feel like maybe Vatters do. Maybe like it's more of this deep embodiment stuff, and going kind of deep into the womb space and into any parts of the body that we might be like shutting down from. That will all come up through pregnancy, whatever that vibration is or emotions that are trapped there come up for you.
Okay.
So I felt a lot of that purging when I was pregnant, quite literally as well, because I was sort of vomited, you know, all day long. And like being a Vata, like I struggled to sometimes keep weight on.
Okay.
So the feeling of losing a lot of weight in early pregnancy was quite scary as well, like trying to keep weight on to nourish this baby. And Rosalia was quite a difficult baby, really beautiful, but she just wouldn't sleep. So if I put her down alone, she wouldn't sleep. She would only sleep on my chest. So I spent 3 months with pillows propped up behind me, only half sleeping. And every time I put her down, she'd just scream. And they call it colic or whatever it is. Or I may call it that she'd come with some past life trauma. Who knows what it was. And I breastfed her as well. And like at one point she would only sleep with motion. So I had to bounce on one of those fitness balls in the middle of the night, sometimes for like 3-4 hours.
The things a mother will do.
So just to settle the crying. There was a lot of crying. And
how was that for you?
I found it the most difficult thing I'd ever gone through in my entire life. I would have done 10 Vipassanas in a row in comparison to, you know, not being able to sleep properly and not being able to tend to my own needs. I felt like the spiritual path before had at least allowed some resilience to be able to manage this. And then when I had her, I was really keen to get into like the community and like go to baby groups, or because I'd had this feeling that it was my responsibility for her to grow up around other children and not feel not a part of or isolated from like society. So I made a lot of kind of mum friends and tried my best to fit in. They're so lovely, you know, the mum friends that I made, but I did do a little bit of molding and shaping of myself to be a little bit more normal. And to fit in.
A bit more suppressed.
Yeah, a little bit more suppressed. And also it was really tricky for me because I'd done all this work and felt like, I'd done so much work on myself to not be anxious. But then I was showing up to like a baby group where sometimes I'd only had 2 or 3 hours sleep. And it was like I went right back to the start of being depleted, being nervous.
It's funny how life seems to do that to us, isn't it? I've completed that.
Yeah, there's no straight line. It's just like a strange circle.
It's like, oh, you're back again, are you? Bloody hell.
Yeah. So I went into it was like I'd just come from school and I hadn't done all of that work I'd done, and you just put me right back in that playgroup, but I was literally back at school feeling inadequate again as a mother. And then, you know, I had all the other parents, like, you know, their babies were sleeping through the night. They were managing to have their own lives and go out, whereas Rosie was a challenge for me. And, you know, it's turned out that she's neurodiverse as well. So I feel that was definitely part of the reason of like what it was like earlier to raise her. And I went through a period of time. I've had Jasper as well, who's 5 now. But so I had Jasper and asked the universe, please give me an easier baby this time. And he started off fairly placid, and then it was a similar story again, not quite as bad. So he would sleep independently without being on my chest, so that was a bonus. But again, a similar story of him being quite high
It's funny
maintenance.
how the universe went, oh, you're resisting this, are you?
Yeah, that was it. So what's this lesson?
Is that why you get me and David to dress up as superheroes?
That's it. Yeah. So I went through a period of time as a parent where I didn't really understand about the neurodiversity, that was a potential in them, because Rosalia started speaking very, very early.
Okay.
She was forming words, and kind of the same with Jasper. He was actually born like a small adult even when he first came out.
I've met him. He's a businessman.
Yeah, he's
just
like
in a 5-year-old's body.
Yeah, he's a fully grown adult already.
Yeah, he's
so
more competent than I am.
yeah, he hit the difficulty with him is he would not allow me to lead him.
Okay.
So even like a nappy change or strapping him into a car seat, he would just resist. Like he had to be in control. So
he was probably some supreme leader in a past life, wasn't it?
It's like, really the weirdest thing. Like in like Western society, we'd probably call it like a pathological demand avoidance, or where the sense of need to control, he'll get quite a lot of anxiety if that's taken away from him.
Okay.
So for a child like him to like have a very a parenting style that's really dictatorial. Is that the right word?
Are you a dictator?
A dictator, yeah.
Dictatorial?
I don't know. I think I made up that word.
It's all right.
If you have that real strict parenting style with him, it goes absolutely wrong because his anxiety levels go really high if he doesn't feel a sense of control.
Compounds the issue then, really.
Yeah, so I've had to learn a style of parenting with him where I'm giving him a lot of choices and like a bit of leeway so that he feels... but because of this parenting style and also because of the neurodiversity of my daughter... I went through a period of time where I didn't understand a lot of this, and I kind of went through quite a bit of judgment from other parents that, my daughter was really spoiled because she has quite high sensory needs. So she'll have like a meltdown if something's, if there's a taste or a smell that she doesn't like, she'll have a big meltdown. So she just sounds really spoiled, but really her senses are really, really heightened.
There's always a reason, isn't there?
Yeah, and she has that honest gene. Does that an absolute no bullshit. She kind of sees fakery or anyone like having an appearance of something and calls it out. So like in this Cheshire society that I'm in of everything being so nice, it just doesn't work for me. I've got like my son will refuse kind of me choosing his outfit or something, for example. So, we'll go out looking a little bit mishmash.
Are you telling me you're not picking the Iron Man outfit?
Yeah, no, that's not my choice. The superheroes are not my choice. So it's just like I had to go through. I think the lesson, like at the start of parenting, I was all ready to be one of those brilliant, like natural earth mother parents. And it was that my labour was going to go brilliant because of all my yoga and, and I kind of had this quite naive viewpoint of what I was going to do, how it was going to be.
Yeah.
And, I did do like the more attachment parenting style where I'd sleep with my babies and I breastfed them for like quite a while. So I'd done all these things and I was sort of really not disappointed, but I felt like when they didn't turn out to be children that looked like they'd been parented in that way. So that way of parenting is like helps to regulate the nervous system. The mother's there, they have that real consistency, that security, but yet my children are still really anxious with quite high needs. I was like, this just doesn't like match. Maybe I've done something wrong, and this is me as a parent. And I was focusing. I wasn't teaching that much this period of time when they were both young, because actually, even though I told my students I'm going to be back after 3 months. I didn't really realise what it entails. Yeah. At 3 months, I actually was only sleeping about three hours a night. So
and it comes back to that cup not spilling anymore.
Yeah, I didn't have the energy at that time, and I was really harsh on myself as a parent that maybe I'm not cut out for it, and that this is really difficult. And so when I learned more about the neurodiversity, and it sort of allowed me some grace to feel, you know, actually that maybe I've done pretty well, like, you know, that she's neurodiverse, she's confident, and, you know, that actually I'm doing all right.
She's well
with
cool.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing sweat lodges. She's doing so many things that, like, I'm thinking that is the coolest mum.
Yeah.
And you're there thinking the opposite.
I went through a few years of like, I went through definitely a year of depression with my children, where I think like depletion definitely is something to do with that, but feeling as though all the work I'd done in the past wasn't translating into the now. So I had to drop what was essentially a spiritual identity.
It's not the first to do that, yeah.
Which was really important in my path as well. To not think that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, which means I'm this. So let all that go. Started to validate my own human emotions, not just observing them, but really validating them. The darker ones, the harder ones, the sadder ones, the ones that other people would judge me for. Started to really see about our sunny disposition society and the fakery of it. And that actually, until we can hold all emotions and sensations with ourselves, that we can't really hold them in another. So it's a necessary path to, although it's necessary, yes, the meditation, so that we don't get swallowed up by them all the time. It's also really necessary to go on a path where you're really compassionate with your own feelings.
For sure.
And that's what motherhood taught me, big time.
I mean, everything's got that blessing in disguise if you just turn it from being that obstacle into an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I know you say about is it neurodivergent?
Yeah,
Have I got that right?
Neurodiversity, yeah.
So I know that you've started doing classes. Should we speak about them a little bit?
Yeah, so feeling into some of the struggles and the judgment that comes with having a neurodiverse child, and obviously because it's not an obvious thing, my daughter just looks spoiled a lot of the time. It's not an obvious thing. So there's that judgment from society, from other parents, from school, where it can just look like you as a parent as being an inadequate parent. And there's a lot that I feel that because my journey of being able to regulate my own emotions that came before having children has helped me so much that I've sort of decided with my good friend Mo, we decided at a medicine festival actually, because I had this little inkling that I wanted to do something to help other parents, and she had the same thing. She's got an autistic son, and we both spoke about it in Medicine Fest, and we were like, okay, we're going to launch like a course for parents with neurodiverse children as a way to give them tools to regulate, so that when home is like a bit of a shit show, when it's, you know, when it's wild, that you can hold your center, so you understand what's yours and what's theirs. And as a path of an empath, this is a massive training that I've had to undergo, which is what's mine, what's theirs. So you see their meltdown as being theirs, and you hold your own calm center so that you can bring your child into your center rather than you just merging with their energy and becoming their energy. So it's kind of a way of using yoga and different regulation techniques so that you can hold a calm space while that's going on. You know, it's a little bit of like warrior training, really.
But I think it's beautiful that you have experienced that. Obviously, you've had your tough moments, you still probably do, but you have now this skill set, really, where you can help other people.
Yeah. And
I think we should put it in the notes as well so that people can find that.
Yeah, I'm doing this from near Knutsford from my home, so not in the yoga centre in Manchester. I'm doing it from home. Okay. And I feel... What was I going to say?
Oh, I'm sorry. My girlfriend shouts at me for this all the time.
This is the only... Usually my memory is a bit poor, but I've been talking without... so there's one moment here where I've forgotten.
So we were talking about, you were sharing it, and then just when I said... How can people get that? Or should we come back to it? You and Mo were in Medicine Fest.
There's something in it. I'll just keep talking a little bit about that, then it might come back. But we do a sharing circle at the end. And what I've found is that just having this unity in this judgment. You know, the school system, if your child is kind of on the spectrum, like quite mildly, but they still have capability to learn in terms of the normal system, but they struggle emotionally, there's not really much in the way of that in society. So you have a special needs school or you have a regular school, and there kind of needs to be more in between here with children that can learn but can struggle emotionally. And, you know, both my children are in mainstream school, and I'm absolutely so proud of them, how they're managing. But there is definitely releases and meltdowns at home after to kind of release some of that, you know, especially my daughter. I can't remember. There was a point.
I feel awful now.
No.
I've ruined it.
No, it's fine.
I tell you what, let's move on to something else, and if it comes, it comes. That. It was meant to.
Exactly.
So, temple.
Yeah. So temple events. Or maybe if we spoke about the yoga centre, haven't we?
We have, yeah. Is there anything else you feel like you'd like to share with them? This is who you are, and I know that's a big part of your life.
Yeah, so I guess temple events. I guess in my 20s, I was on that more kind of, you know, purifying. You know, it was different from clubbing, wasn't it? It was different from the clubbing outfits and that kind of expression. You know, I was in a kaftan and I was being a little bit more, okay, don't take photos of me doing yoga because this is an internal journey. And then as I've come back round and got like a little bit more connected, like again into like my raw emotion, my passion, I feel that there's got to be a way of like meeting these two different sides of myself. And also as I'm getting older, it's still time to celebrate like the body and its expression and like how I look in a certain way, you know, I'm only getting older now. So it's like, if I don't sort of celebrate in my body and my image now, then when
you
will
look great.
I?
For those who are watching on the YouTube, man, they'll be like, what?
Oh, thank
what are you on
you. So, ecstatic dance. I took a trip to Mexico, to Tulum, and was experiencing I saw ecstatic dance actually on Instagram, and this was like in the midst of parenting, where I was watching how people express, and I was like, this is kind of amazing. This is like a way of like my old dance past to also keeping it like a spiritual and energetic thing in the body. So I experienced Jay Paul's ecstatic dance in Tulum. He's somebody that I wanted to see, and I was just really blown away by it, because it's a way of it was like a healing for the dance past. So it's like when you dance to how it's to making something look good, it alters the way you do it and how you do it. But then when you dance just purely out of feeling, and there's a healing that can occur within the body when you dance in this way. If you think about like in Chinese medicine, you have this qi flow that runs around the body, that you that become blocked or stagnant, and then you can kind of really somatically release what's stuck, you know. And it doesn't matter how it looks, you know. If you're shaking your arm, for example, you're doing it to kind of clear, so you can feel the tingles in your fingertips, and you're clearing that energy flow. And it's not about how it looks.
It's not like, you don't need to look cool. Like, how does your body want to release? How does it want to express?
Yeah.
So temple.
Yeah. So this is what led me to temple. The ecstatic dance was like my absolute love of music, and like certain house music, and it's kind of like medicine music. Like the music that I heard in Mexico, it's like, we're not really hearing this much in Manchester. There's sort of like world beats coming in with house. And growing up, I really loved Buddha Bar, which was like this CD collection. There's like a series of bars around the world, but there's like this world music mixed with electronic. It was just always really did something for me. That's this like the, and so I wanted to put on an ecstatic dance event, and I contacted Luke, who was putting on some smaller events at the time. I saw he was doing it, asked if he wanted to collaborate. So we put some events on together, which were Boomka, which was wonderful. And we spent a lot of time in the early days kind of talking. It was like a meeting of minds of like his passion, what he wanted to express, and mine. And I think in a way there was a slight difference in how we wanted to do it. I think Luke's purpose was to make it, you know, more accessible to the mainstream, to really be that bridge but I still had my like roots and fundamentals and what it actually does for you kind of spiritually and energetically. So after putting on a couple of events, I decided to kind of go alone, and I'd met David as well in the process, who Wizardry, who is like...
I think everyone's heard. I think he's been mentioned on every episode.
I see, wow.
We need to get him in.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, the best kind of conscious DJ
I love him.
that there is.
Like, when he's not on, I'm like,
yeah.
When's David on?
And there was just a quality in like David, you know, when he would help set up and stuff, he's just such a hardworking person as well. Like physically a grafter and like really was helpful. And so I just saw those like brilliant qualities. So we collaborating with David, and then I've got Sharon, who manages the yoga studio, who is basically like, especially for me, like I suppose I've not said, but like more of an ADHD mind, a creative mind. It's really good to have someone like Sharon who's
she's
like
very
really
organised,
and
logical thinking, rational. Have you thought about it like this, Nikki? And you're like,
Yeah, just having her, and then obviously like the amazing Natalie, who
I also want to get on.
Yeah, just like such a great creative character, brilliant on social media. So it is, you know, it's the four of us together putting it on. And that makes it possible for me as well, like having 2 children and then having the yoga studio. I think that this is a really big passion project. It's like artistically indulgent. It's kind of...
Because it's not just ecstatic dance, is it?
No, there's a very creative element to it. And so creatively, this is a wonderful outlet. But having this team just means that it's possible to do it. You know, it won't become overwhelming. I won't drop some balls where it'll go wrong. So, yeah, it's just creating this space where it's out of the ordinary. So, like, in my past... Sorry about the lawnmower in the background.
Don't worry about it. This tech should now be eliminating stuff like that. Carry on.
So, I find that being like embodied here in this world for me is kind of bearable if I can somehow bring in something from another realm. It's like as if everyday life, how it looks, how it appears, the lighting is just pretty harsh. So in terms of like a design element, like of temple, like we take a lot of plants and put them all up on the pillars at Victoria Warehouse with a really good lighting system. And so that like creates, it like kind of brings nature into...
Yeah, the venue's fantastic, but it's not just the venue, it's what you've done with it. Without your touch, the Nikki touch, the David touch, the Natalie touch, it would just be walls and pillars.
It's like that our society has a lot of these like harsh, you know, like Manchester, these big harsh buildings, you know. So we've got to find a way of bringing the beauty of nature and the softness within the structure of these buildings. So I think like the actual how it looks is quite a big part of temple, so that when they step in, you are stepping into that kind of altered state already. And it's making these spaces where you don't need alcohol, so that when you drink, it can numb things or take you somewhere else. Whereas what I've been learning, you know, through ecstatic dance and through holding space for both the discomfort and the bliss as one, helps you to actually feel the bliss. So when there's that numbness that you're not allowing yourself to feel the discomfort, then there's no access to feeling the bliss. So this is a massive part of the message I feel of temple, so that the night runs where there's an actual journey involved. So, you know, it starts with meditation, with the yoga, the breath work, and these practices are so that you can arrive, and whatever you come with, you can slowly untie the knots in these practices first.
It's not just come and have a dance. It's a healing, creative, expressive process throughout the night. It's a journey, isn't it?
It's a journey. So to go on a journey of, you know, maybe you first sat down, you felt like shit, you know, I feel tense, I'm carrying the weight of the week. So you can slowly like release that. And then by the time the DJ comes on, the dance is there, you know, you've become a little bit freer in the body. And, you know, our goal is we're bringing in different talent. You know, what I saw like from traveling and saw some of the medicine DJs abroad, I was like, you know, wanting to bring them over.
Well, most of the guests are because of you.
Yeah.
We've had Echo. You've had Echo a few times at Temple, haven't
we've
you?
had Echo.
You had Ruben.
Yeah.
Which that was just,
that was
he described it as a sound waterfall, and I think that was accurate. You've had Kawa and Veronica. I mean,
so lucky.
Levi Banner as well.
Levi Banner,
loads
yeah.
and then obviously like your resident DJs like Lulu Powers, David, Wizardry. It's brilliant.
I feel really, really grateful and like kind of supported by the universe as well. I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but
No.
there's are people coming into my path, especially a lot has opened up this past year. And I feel like when I've come out of essentially what was a depression and a self-loathing, to actually go back to some of those old resources that I learned in my 20s, to actually bring them back in and find the belief and trust of them again, and to access that self-love, which is not come from a place of bypassing, but it's come from a space of accepting all that I am. Which does lead on to, being able to really feel those emotions, to be able to access the bliss. And then when I'm really finally feeling that, like, I'm connecting with that, the people that are in my path, are really, this year, there's been more of an ascension than ever.
I think you've become a vibrational match to attract those people into your life.
Potentially, yeah.
Like, it's not a shock in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. It feels like a shock to me. I'm like, the
Through
people
my
that
eyes, though,
in front of me are like so wonderful. It's like, you are so wonderful.
But so are you. Like, I wanted you on this show. You've been one of my favorite guests, by the way, because just everything you're saying, I'm like, go on. What else have you got to give us?
Thank you.
It's amazing the life that you've had. Is there anything else we might have missed at all that you think is important to share about who on earth you are? What time is it, Michael? We've got plenty of time.
Oh, God.
You got a school run.
I get worried about the school run.
I know. Well, I tell you what.
Into responsibilities.
Is there any? Maybe I usually get the guests to like leave us with a few words or an echo of who you are. Just something you'd like to leave people with. This is your chance.
I mean, I've been connecting with the voice a lot recently, and this has been a really beautiful journey. And the universe has helped, and certain people in my path that have definitely helped show me the way. When I was studying like musical theatre, there was kind of a lot of singing in that, but it was very different to sing again to try to sound good, and then to sing to transmute energy and vibration that you feel, and to put that out there is like a mind-blowing lesson that I didn't know even existed. And just starting singing with Wizardry, my friend David, who has just been a really like compassionate and kind presence.
Sacred Roots, is it?
Well, we still need a name for our collaboration. And yeah, so like, and his way, like, he's so chilled out that there's like sitting and singing with him, I've had to do quite a lot of unlearning from the performer aspect of being. And it's amazing that when you allow and stop the control or the trying, that the sounds that come out are just way more powerful than when you're really trying to sound good.
It's coming from the soul.
Yeah, coming from the soul. And doing a few workshops with different kind of spiritual singers and artists.
You see, when I saw you doing it with Ruben, I think afterwards you said that was the best moment of my life, or at least up there.
Yeah,
you were so good.
It's accessing. So around the like Medicine Fest and Healing Fest, I've done a few workshops as well with different artists that I've got. So actually learning that when you express the voice, you express exactly what's there. So there's no anxiety or apprehension about what's going to come out, because you really trust that sound that's being made is the sound that, and it's that authentic sound. And I feel that can be felt a little bit by the listener. So that it's real and raw emotion, and kind of felt like that's something that's missing in a way from some commercial recording artists who get given a song. So we've been writing a few songs, myself and David, which has been a really nice process. And it's just nice as well not to do it to try to get somewhere with it, just to be in the moment with it. And if it goes wherever it goes, we'll be grateful, but we're doing it like for the love of it.
Yeah.
And some of the learning, being with Kawa having Kawa stay at my house and just learning about chants that are so ancient, that carry a vibration, that are for healing, that are from the indigenous population, deep in the rainforest, that haven't been tainted, that we're kind of learning that you can put them into any song you want, those lyrics, and learning kind of some of those. I'm obviously struggling. My brain doesn't learn languages very well, not as well as David's been learning them, but so I'm struggling with actually the language of it. But the vowel sounds and the tones, I can follow those all day long.
Well, they say there's a healing power to vowels.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to point out, actually, that came to me before we do finish, a little bit of who and if you have got a cheeky side as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to not know about that.
God.
You have, like, you'll come up
My
to me.
sense of humour.
Like, you've got like a lovely sort of like satirical darkness, but like it's dead cheeky, and I didn't want people to not know that about you.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
There's been no weird. I mean, there's been no weird jokes, has there?
We've been so normal. It's not like us, is it?
Yeah. Well, there is a, like, I guess when you start to view yourself in this expanded viewpoint and you don't get too attached to the personality, it's like you can start to play a little bit. You can start to like poke a little bit if anyone's taking themselves too seriously.
I love that about you, because like, when you started doing that, I think it maybe when you got more comfortable with me and learn who I was, and you were like, go do that. Go do some hip thrusts at David while he's DJing. And I'm like, what?
I do. I love to like take an environment that everyone's taken a bit seriously.
Yeah,
and like do something really odd and weird, so that like people question like, oh, what's that? Like,
but I love that, because that's me down to a T. Like, everyone's getting far too serious. This is a game. Let's enjoy us. Mike, go do that. I'm like, okay.
Life is a little bit of a game, though, isn't it? You know?
So let's play.
Yeah.
And speaking of playing, where can people find you? So where can they find the events that you're doing? Where can they find the classes?
So you can go to www.manchesteryogacentral.co.uk. I do some collaborations with David for workshops. So you've got lovely workshops from Natalie and Sharon on there as well. And Temple Events is actually under the same website.
Okay.
So if you go on there, you'll find out all about the upcoming Temple events. We've also got the courses for parents of neurodiversity, which is actually located in Knutsford, but maybe by the time the podcast is out, we might have ran some things in Manchester as well.
Okay.
So you can find me in my not very active Instagram profile, Nikki Yoga Central, that I'm trying now to be a little bit more active on. So
But you've got Temple Events Instagram as well.
And then Instagram, Manchester Yoga Central Instagram, and also Temple_events as well. That's an Instagram page as well.
And we'll put all the links in the notes as well, so people can find, because I'm sure there's some people who go, I want to try that or that. Like, you're so diverse. There's something you will have said. I'll be surprised if I didn't speak to somebody.
Thank you.
Apart from that, can you play us a little song?
I can.
Yeah? Should we finish it how we started it?
Yeah, we'll do. I'll do a little something with my monochord, maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
A little bit of voice. I'll just have a sip of my cold green tea.
And for those of you that aren't driving or operating heavy equipment, I will close my eyes, take a few breaths, and this is it's going to be nice.
Yeah, it can. What's really great about the monochord is you don't need too much skill to play it.
love when you do that. It's so hypnotic.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm really honoured
Much
to be
love.
on your show, Michael. Yeah. Lots of love to you.
Yeah, you too. Peace and love, guys.
Lots of blessings for this podcast. Like, let's take your whole podcast and all your guests. Let's really put it out there. This is your path.
I think people will be naturally drawn to some of the people that have been on it so far.
Yeah. Some great people on it.
One of the best. One of my favourites so far.
Thank you.
See you later, guys.
How cool is Nikki? I absolutely love that human being. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as me. Just hearing, like, I mean, the amount of stuff I could relate to, but then she also has this, like, going on the Vipassana and then juggling that with having the children and the struggles that came with trying to understand the best way to mother them, and a good time in Australia learning to do the yoga and the temple events. By the way, get down to temple events are so cool. Going down to Manchester Yoga Central as well. Get that body aligned with the universe, people. But yeah, if that doesn't make you want to go down to a temple event, I don't know what will. She's so beautiful. Such a lovely human being. So thank you, Nikki, for coming on, and thank you for watching. Now, next up, lucky number 13. This is going to be with somebody who I didn't massively know, but then I seen her she was at like one of the spiritual link-ups, and then she was randomly at a friend's party, and then she was at one of the dry wave events that Ben SOS puts on. I was like, the more I got to know her, the more I realised how much I needed to get this person out there. So Joe Freeman has come on the show, and this is somebody who used to struggle with drugs, used to struggle with drink, struggled because she came from a dance background, and it was very much trying to fit in and find herself, and she's ended up using dance now as a way of helping people to help release emotion, to heal. She's actually done a U-turn, and now she's all about that sober way of living to really help people just live life a bit more free. And she's just really cool as well, so I think you're really going to vibe from Jo. She's definitely somebody I'm excited to share. So episode 13 coming up next. Now guys, if you want to follow Nikki, I'll put all the links in the description. If you want to go down to the next temple event, I think that's in March, so check that out. I know they're doing stuff at Manchester Yoga Central. I think it's like Mondays. She's doing it with Wizardry, and then you've got Natalie coming down, and Sharon, loads of cool people. I know you don't know those names, but these are also awesome people that I'm going to try getting on as well. So if you want to follow them, find out what's going on next, just check, the links will be there for you. Transmute links will be there for you. Isabella Nutrition, couldn't recommend her more, as you can probably tell from almost my keep getting it out there, because your health, man, it comes first, and then everything else will spill from that. Strong base, strong foundation. But you know what, the link's there if you want it. And also myself, you want to come and try out some meditation stuff, Meditation with Michael's here for you, baby. And apart from that, again, the shares, the likes, things like that, that's more than enough. But thank you for tuning in. I love you and leave you, you beautiful people. Peace and love.